What's up, you guys? So real quick, I want to go ahead and put a little warning at the first of this video. This is going to be a video that contains very mature themes and mature things that I will be discussing. So if you're a kiddo or your kiddos are around, you probably want to go and like send them to watch The Wiggles or something of that nature. You know, I've always read and I've always been told from people that whenever you start approaching the big 3-0, age 30, that things start to change, you know, and it's not just in the typical way of just you're getting older. It is your whole kind of like mind shifts, your soul shifts, like a whole like cosmic shift for your life that just kind of tidal waves you. And it's like your life up until this point was like a big funnel, and then things start to, you know, go down the funnel and begin to finally take shape into what you want to aim yourself at. And you know, obviously that isn't gonna happen for everybody. You know, some people just kind of stay the same, you know, pretty much most of their life. They're just okay with who they are and they just kind of coast. But I have never been like that. And I've said in vlogs before that I always have a goal at the end of every year. Look back on the year and ask myself, how did I improve myself? You know, like, what have I done to improve who I am? Even if it's just the tiniest little thing. And with me approaching 30, things are happening still, but instead of just like, oh, like, what have I done to improve myself? It's more just like, where am I going? Like, what are these improvements aiming towards? But what really makes me happy and what are the things that I've done in life that I'm starting to realize didn't mean as much as I thought they did. One of the biggest things that has changed for me is my view on sex and relationships and what I want out of those things moving forward in my life. You know, with sex, my view on it has always been kind of skewed and not like how most people view sex. And obviously, sex is a very open-ended thing to where everyone kind of has a different viewpoint on it. And you know, you have, you know, your open relationships and, you know, what have you. But those people still usually have kind of like core there, like a rock. Like, so there is a solid foundation to where, you know, even if you are, you know, having different partners or sharing partners or, you know, what have you, there's still some meaning and connection to it whenever you have it with a certain person. It's never been that way for me. I was introduced to pornography at a very, very, very young age. Like, I can't remember exactly when it was, but obviously it was just like with friends or cousins, and it started with dirty magazines, but something about it just like etched itself into my brain. I lost my virginity at, it was either 12 or 13, one of those. I can't remember exactly what age it was, but it was right around that time. Ever since then, like, sex to me has just been something that I've kind of associated with porn. Like, all of my sexual experiences, I was like, I want to find a girl who can do what the girls do in porn, and I want to perform like the guys do in porn. And so sex in a way almost became like a sport to me. Like, I was always trying to like outdo my last performance. I was nothing to look at growing up whatsoever. Like, even now, like, I consider myself, I'm like decently attractive, but I'm not like male model material or anything like that. But growing up, I looked like a swamp creature. Like, I was the metal kid. So I had like this long, scraggly hair that I dyed black because I don't know why I did it, but I did. I had like snake bites, you know, all sorts of piercings. All my clothes were just tattered, band t-shirts. Like, girls were not lining up to get with me, whatsoever. Always been very open about it in vlogs and did a whole like series on it. But growing up, I was just like this little ball of like depression and anxiety. I wasn't diagnosed then. I just thought that's how like people lived. You know, very small growing up because of CF. You know, I couldn't put on weight, so I was super skinny. I did not have like any confidence whatsoever. Like, my self-confidence was probably like in the negatives. I didn't think I was anything special, and I never really found anything that I felt like I fit in at, in a way. Like, there was no, like, everyone kind of has like their little niche or whatever, and I felt like I never had that. But then fast forward to really, I would say things started getting like crazy and out of hand around, I would say like 20 years old. Anxiety and depression were just at an all-time high, but I had discovered, you know, drugs and alcohol at that point. Also figured out this thing to where I would have this crippling social anxiety, like the worst social anxiety in the world. But I somehow figured out how to flip this switch in my brain, and it was either like 0 to 100. Somewhere along the way, I learned how to like channel, it was almost like channeling fight or flight, but for social settings. So I was either the guy in the corner, like minding his own business, or I was larger than life. So I would go to these parties and flip that switch and boom, like I was the social butterfly. Everyone flocked to me. Like I was that guy, almost like Freddie Mercury style in a way, just out there. You know, just like I walked into the room and I commanded the attention. And you know, I really loved that because like I said, growing up, I didn't have really any self-confidence and I didn't have much self-worth. And when I learned how to like tap into that part of me that was just like balls to the wall, we're gonna take over every room that we walk in, it was like, man, like this is awesome. Like I love this. It wasn't in a very healthy way that I did it. It was almost like a manic or like bipolar episode in a way, to where it's like you hit the lowest of low and then you pop back up and you're like a crazy person high. Between that and then discovering like drugs and alcohol, I was getting to the point where I could put on weight and I wasn't looking so, you know, like I didn't look like a metal swamp creature who just like crawled out of a well. I knew how to sneak into bars. Like it was so easy. I would sneak into bars, I would drink, and it was like I would turn on that larger than life personality. And it kept growing because I also had relationships, like as I was going through that, because my brain would be like, Morgan, stop, like this isn't what you want to do. And so I would get in a relationship, but I was so obsessed with sex and everything around sex and porn and all that, that as soon as I got into a relationship and the girl wasn't like sexually adventurous, if she said she wasn't down for threesomes or anything that I considered, you know, adventurous, I was immediately just like done. I was like, all right, sorry, you gotta go. I never cheated because I've always just felt cheating was a very cowardly thing, you know, like I'm an admitted asshole, but I'm an honest asshole if anything. 21 and 22, I was full on shit show status. I was covering up my anxiety and depression and everything with drinking all the time. I was starting to experiment with with drugs, and not just like your weed and all of that, you know, like cocaine and, you know, the harder stuff. And then I found myself finding these groups of people who were also just kind of like as lost as I was. If you put out that vibe, it's, you know, it's like the law of attraction. You know, you go in somewhere, whatever vibe you put out is the people that you're going to attract. And I put out this like larger than life, sexually adventurous, let's do all the drugs, let's do all the drinking, and so I attracted those people. It got absolutely insane. There are so many mornings that I would wake up next to just naked bodies everywhere, and I'm just like, what the hell happened last night? Multiple partners a week, sometimes multiple partners a day, like different partners. It became insanity. When you really fall deep into sexual addiction, the norm no longer like pleases you anymore. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being like freaky sexual. Like that's totally fine. Everyone has their kinks and all that, and it's totally fine. But there's a difference between like having your kinks and, you know, like exploring it with people, and then there's a difference between like literally living for sex. It was like I was living for the next like sexual encounter, like I said, to see if I could one up my last one in terms of like freakiness or how many partners I had at once. So I am a person who is very like sexually open, so there was no limit to anything. Threesomes, foursomes, you know, orgies, girls, guys, like it did not matter. I was just looking to, it was almost like increase my sexual resume, or there was something in my brain that was like, let's just see what else we can add that we've done, like just to like check it off the list. Kept going, even when I got my like depression and anxiety and everything under control, and I had like pulled it back from like, you know, like the drugs and alcohol and all that. I was still going. Like my brain was always on sex. It was always on who's gonna be like the next partner, what's the next thing I was gonna do. I was good at it. So it gave me this like insane confidence and this sense of accomplishment I never had before. Like, man, like, you know, I'm the shit. Like, and it was just like a ridiculous, like thinking back on it and like the levels of insanity that it got. Like, I feel like my life at some points are like a Hollywood movie in terms of the crazy like sexual adventures that I've like gotten myself into. It's not like a bragging point or anything like that. It's just how far kind of like I fell and was full on deep into like the addiction. All started to change. It all started to make a shift whenever I got with my ex-fiance. Our relationship started sexually. It started out as she was just, you know, like another like target. And it turns out she was like super open and sexually freaky too. The whole relationship and my like infatuation and wanting to be with her started from a sexual standpoint. And we were friends for years before we ever decided to finally get together. And then when we did, it was like everything that I did up until that point was just kind of like, it just went away. During all of these, you know, sexual adventures and all that, they got to a point where I honestly didn't feel anything. In the middle of like sex, I would just be like, why am I doing this? And I would totally like lose interest and just hate it. It started like, I was just so, it's like I couldn't stop, but I wasn't enjoying it. I was just doing it because I had been doing it for so long. My brain was like, this is what we're supposed to do. With my ex-fiance, that's like the first time I can say that I was just 100% like in love. I didn't care anymore about like the sexual stuff, because yeah, we were both still like sexually open and she was down for, you know, doing all this stuff, but that was like the last thing like on my mind. Like, she just made me feel alive. My soul like felt like a sparkler on the 4th of July, like constantly when I was around her. Like, she made my cosmic being just constantly vibrate. Like, I know it's getting into weird like hippie stuff, but that's just how I felt when I was around her. Same house but different rooms. Not even, she'd be doing her thing, I'd be doing mine, but I just felt like this is, you know, this is it. Like, I loved doing things for her, like going places with her, like even when we weren't doing anything like sexual, like it didn't matter. I was just like, this is my person. Like, nothing else matters now. Like, all that shit before was at like nothing. It was meaningless. You know me, and you followed along with the vlog, and you know me personally, you know that it ended, you know, horribly. You know, I got my heart shattered, and then I reverted back to what I knew. Back to going out and trying to pull whoever. Want to take ecstasy and go to a sex party? I was like, count me in. I'm there. Let's get back to my old ways. I mentioned that I felt nothing before. It was like that again, but I felt depressed afterwards. Like, it felt wrong and just like, I don't know, like I hated myself after I would do these things. And like I discovered real quick, it was because I didn't have that feeling wasn't there anymore that I had with Brooke. That feeling made me like feel complete. Like, sex with her was out of this world, and not even because it was like, oh my god, we're doing crazy freaky stuff. It was because our souls were so like entwined whenever we would be together that it's like a light bulb went off, and I was like, this is what people have, you know, talked about whenever they're like, oh, I can only have sex with someone if I am like emotionally invested or like feel something for them. And holy shit, I kind of get it now. What I did, no matter what high I chased from alcohol, drugs, sexual experiences, anything, I couldn't match what I felt with her. Feeling alive for once. Not that she gave me purpose or that I didn't have a purpose before, that I need a person to have purpose. I'm sure if anyone is watching this who has ever been like madly in love with someone, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just this feeling to where it's like, this is my future, like this is like my person. I don't have to do this alone anymore. Up until that point, I never thought that I would be that person. I never thought I would propose to somebody. I just wasn't about it. I mean, for the longest time growing up with cystic fibrosis, I was just like, I don't have that long to live anyways, so might as well live it up. And I think that's kind of where everything kind of started with like the sex thing and no relationships. But after her, I kind of realized that, man, like I spent all these years doing something and chasing something that has literally done nothing for me. I realized, like, I don't want to be that person anymore, because it's not that sex is a bad thing. Like, I am always going to probably be some way or another addicted to sex. Just that's how it works. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying like freaky stuff. If you get with someone you're sexually compatible with and y'all want to do crazy stuff like together, that's fine. I'm not even worried about that now. I want to find someone to share like life experiences with now. I learned that there's no beating that feeling of whenever you're just with someone and connect so hard. And it brought so much into perspective, not just the relationship stuff, but it started making me think of the other things that I've chased in my life that I thought meant something, but in the long run, they haven't meant anything. I've chased admiration of people who it shouldn't have mattered to. I've chased these outlandish, dreams that I shouldn't have bothered with. It's weird because you have to think like, yes, these things that I've done in my life, they were stupid. Like, they, at the end of the day, meant nothing. But at the same time, if I didn't do these things, would I be in the position I am now? It's almost like you have to accept the bad parts of yourself and nurture them in a way in order for the good parts to be able to finally like blossom out. And you won't have that like urge of being like, man, I've missed out on something, or I should have done this. It's like, I've done that, been there, I know, don't want it. So y'all know I just made that vlog not too long ago where I went on a date and completely blew it with my weird like social anxiety and all that. But for so long, sex has been the opening line. Like, let's get to know each other and then we'll go on a couple dates and then we may kiss and like keep going. Like, no, it's immediately, usually I meet someone whenever I'm like drunk or something like that, and then you end up sloppily making out at a bar, having sex, and then you get to know each other kind of like after you've already like reached the point you should have been going for. It's like you start at the finish line and you're running the race backwards. When I went out with that girl, it was terrifying. Like, it was a horrible, like, it was a good date, but it was a horrible experience internally for me because it was a totally sober, like 100% sober date. We talked zero things sexual, so it's like I had to be a person, but it was so relieving. A lot of my life, I feel like I have suppressed a big part of myself that, I am very intuitive and I don't see the world like a lot of people see the world. But I feel like I repress all of this because I live, North Carolina, to whereas I don't find a lot of people who connect with that. So I feel like I have had to mold myself and change myself to fit in, to have some sort of human connection, or else everyone else is gonna be like, this dude is way too weird for us, like we can't deal. It's like I notice it's like all these small things, this beauty. When I meet people, I don't just meet someone, it's almost like I can see like the aura around them. I notice little things about a person. I pick up on like energies from people and just like vibes. And it's why I've like always connected with like animals in a way, because it's like this non-verbal like spiritual connection, and I've always felt that to people and the world. And I've always been so like empathetic for people, and I'm such a crier. Like, it's ridiculous. I just feel things on such a deep emotional level. It's almost like I used sex and all these other things in order to repress that so I didn't have to feel. And as I'm approaching 30 now, I'm getting to the point to where, you know, I've always kind of had the air about me that I don't care what people think. And that's been true. At the same time, there's still been parts of me that I've hidden away and not been totally open about. And I've tried, and I've like kind of normalized myself because I just felt like people wouldn't understand. As I'm approaching 30, I realized like, that's like, I just don't care anymore. Like, I'm going to be me. Whenever I was on the date with that girl, that's the kind of stuff we talked about, like people's energy and, you know, being open. And we were looking at like, there's this mural like that was on the wall, and we just started talking about it because I noticed there was like geometric like patterns on this one part of the mural, but there's this one line in the pattern that was different than all the rest. I just picked like, it's the tiniest little thing, and I was like, man, I wonder if that was like an intentional thing by the artist, like what was going through their head whenever they made that different line, if it was a mistake. And she picked up on that, and it was like I was completely myself, completely, you know, vulnerable, and it was terrifying, but it was like, God, it was so beautiful and like refreshing. And it was like, this, like I'm just me right now. It's me, like I don't have to, you know, be like 0 to 100 to be the life of the party. You know, I don't have to be drinking. It doesn't have to be about sex or anything like that. Like I was just me. I was what I have kind of always felt, because, you know, I've always felt that I was like slightly eccentric and, you know, like slightly feminine. Single mom upbringing, got a lot of feminine in me, but it's okay. That's not a bad thing. All of the rest of my life was so like a complete counter to that. Like I felt like this deep, caring like person, but then you see me out somewhere and I am like a train wreck. I felt like I couldn't be the person I wanted to be because I had already set like a precedent and like an expectation for myself. I'm gonna be 29 in July. It's like I'm finally getting to a point in my life where I'm learning how to, you know, love myself. Because whenever me and my ex ended, it was just like the darkest headspace I've ever been in. And, you know, I'm still pulling myself out of that. You know, it's funny that it's happening now because I'm currently probably in like one of the lowest spots that I've been in a while, just as far as life goes. Like kind of at a rock bottom right now. This is what I grow from. Like I can either sit here and feel sorry and just kind of keep falling back into the same routine, or I can use this chance, you know, be like, you know what? These are the mistakes that I have made. These are the things I don't want to do anymore. This is like a turning point in my life, and this is where I want to go from here. But I'm also not going to shy away from who I was at the same time. Did I have fun in the years past, even though it was stupid? Were there fun times? Definitely. Like I've actually met like a lot of friends through this most of them have gotten their shit together by now. I can't like completely look back and hate it. I'm finally starting to, you know, love and accept myself and accept the parts of me that I, you know, never liked before. Life has felt very black and white for a very long time for me, and it's kind of starting to feel like everything is like filling in with color. And that's like the whole point of this vlog and why, you know, I wanted to make it, because someone may see this and maybe they haven't gone off the rails with like sex or anything like that, but there are so many people who live their life for things they think are important, and, you know, they're not. They crave, you know, they crave money, they crave power, they crave like this attention, when really those things like don't mean anything. To where most of the time, if these people really have like a deep introspective look at themselves, they are going to see that that's not what makes them happy. I also can't base my happiness on someone else, but I also realize that what I've been doing for all of my life isn't going to get me to where I want to be. Moving forward, like I want to be vulnerable. I want to, like, you know, go on dates and talk about this deep hippie stuff, and if it runs people off, then it runs people off. Then it's just like, go on. You don't need to be like, I don't want to have you like in my life anyway. I'm not like in sex rehab or anything like that. Like I'm sure I'm still gonna have like my random encounters and all that, because that's just what happens whenever you're an adult. But I'm completely focused now on learning to love myself and attracting people who want to grow with me. And, you know, I want to help other people grow, and I want other people to help me grow. Like I'm realizing I don't have to be Rager Morgan in order to, you know, make friends or make meaningful what I thought were, you know, meaningful connections. Like I said before, a lot of people are gonna go through these phases, and it's almost like you can't get to the point where your life is going to change unless you go through the bad first. And you're gonna slip, and you're gonna contradict yourself, and it's gonna happen. But we are humans, and that is okay. I'm almost 29. I'm gonna be 30 next year, and so it's just like taking deep looks into myself and seeing the person I want to be, and realizing that the things that I thought meant something don't mean anything. What I want people to do who like watch this is take a look inside of yourself, and maybe you don't know it now, and you know, that's totally fine if you don't. You'll find what honestly like makes you happy. Aim yourself towards that. You know, I would love to have a connection with someone, and to go through this life with a partner who we grow together, and we have these experiences together, grow our spirits and our souls together. But I know that's not gonna happen like overnight, and I'm not going to sell myself short and just be like, oh well, I'm gonna get with you and it not work. Like, you just know whenever you like connect with someone in that way. But I'm also not gonna force it. You can't. You kind of have to let it come to you. But in the meantime, I'm also really loving the journey that I'm starting to put myself on now, of just being open, you know, being myself, learning to love those bad parts of me, and learning to just be kind of deep person that I've always felt I was, but no longer hiding it. Like, this is me, and this is how I want to grow. Like, I want to be a change in the world. I told people so many times, I'm not scared of dying. I'm not. Like, I don't know how long I have with CF, but when I leave, I want to know that I made a positive impact. And doing the things that I was doing before, while I was still trying to, you know, do positive things in that's not the type of legacy and the type of person that I want to leave behind. I don't want that to be like my main reputation. Like, it's a part of the journey. I can't escape it, so I have to just embrace it, and I have to love it, and I have to learn from it. But that doesn't have to be me forever. You know, that doesn't have to be you forever either, you know. So find what makes you happy, find what sets your soul on fire, and aim yourself towards that. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a little deviation of what my vlogs usually are, but you know, I've always told you guys I am real, and I'm always gonna be real with you, and that's something that I felt like I needed to say. I needed to get it out there, and hopefully it helps someone else in their journey as well. If you enjoyed what you just heard, be sure to follow me on social media. All of my links are down here. Be sure to smash that subscribe button. Love you guys so much. Be good to yourself. Follow what makes you happy. Learn to love yourself. I'll see you on the next vlog. Peace out, you guys. Later.